Lieutenant Maya Santos stood at the edge of the dark forest, her breath creating small clouds in the frigid air at 3:22 a.m. The trees loomed above her like giant shadows, their branches reaching out like twisted fingers. Her hands trembled slightly, not from the cold, but from the memory that always haunted her. When she was 7 years old, Maya had gotten lost in woods just like these during a family camping trip. She had wandered for hours in complete darkness, terrified and alone, until rescuers found her at dawn. That night had left a scar on her soul that never quite healed. The darkness, the endless trees, the feeling of being trapped, it all came rushing back now. Before we begin, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. "Lieutenant, are you ready?" whispered Sergeant Chen from behind her. His voice was calm, steady, exactly what she needed to hear right now. Maya turned to face her team of 6 soldiers, all watching her with trust in their eyes. They had no idea that their mission commander was fighting an internal battle just to stand here. Intelligence had confirmed that enemy forces were holding 3 captured civilians deep in this forest, in an old abandoned mine. The rescue had to happen tonight, before the hostages were moved at dawn. Maya had volunteered to lead this operation, but now she wondered if that had been a terrible mistake. "I'm ready," Maya said, forcing confidence into her voice. She checked her equipment one final time, the familiar weight of her gear somehow comforting. Her father's words echoed in her mind from years ago, after that terrifying night in the woods. He had told her that brave people aren't the ones without fear. They're the ones who feel fear and move forward anyway. She had joined the military partly to prove to herself that she could overcome what had happened to her as a child. But this was different. This wasn't training. Lives depended on her ability to push through the terror clawing at her chest. The team moved into the forest in single file, Maya at the front. The darkness swallowed them immediately. Her night vision goggles turned the world into shades of green, but that somehow made it worse. Every shadow looked like a threat. Every rustling leaf sounded like footsteps. Maya's heart pounded so hard she worried the others could hear it. She remembered being 7 years old again, calling out for her parents with no answer coming back. The memory was so vivid she could almost hear her younger self crying in the distance. "Contact left," hissed Private Rodriguez. Everyone froze. Through the trees, Maya spotted 2 enemy sentries smoking cigarettes, their rifles slung carelessly over their shoulders. This was the first checkpoint. According to their intel, there would be 3 more before they reached the mine. Maya signaled for Chen and Martinez to circle around. Her hands moved with practiced precision, even though her mind screamed at her to run. The team worked perfectly, disabling the sentries silently and securing them without a single shot fired. "Good work," Maya whispered, and she meant it. But as they moved deeper into the forest, the trees grew thicker, the darkness more complete. At 4:15 a.m., they reached a steep ravine. The path down was narrow and treacherous, barely visible even with their equipment. Maya stared into the black void below and felt her chest tighten. This was exactly like her childhood nightmare, the moment when she had lost her way trying to climb down a similar slope. She had fallen, scraped her knees bloody, and sat crying in the dark, convinced she would die there. "Lieutenant?" Chen's voice pulled her back to the present. "The mine entrance is just beyond this ravine. We have to go down." Maya closed her eyes for a moment. She could send someone else down first. She could claim she needed to maintain overwatch, but that wasn't who she was. That wasn't the leader her team deserved. "I'll take point," she said quietly. As she started down the slope, placing each foot carefully, she realized something strange. The fear was still there, sharp and real, but she was moving anyway. Her training had given her tools her 7-year-old self never had. She knew how to navigate terrain, how to stay calm, how to focus on the mission. The fear couldn't stop her anymore because she had learned to carry it with her instead of running from it. They reached the bottom safely. The mine entrance was hidden behind overgrown bushes, exactly where intelligence said it would be. Maya could hear voices inside, speaking in hushed tones. She counted at least 4 enemy soldiers. According to their information, the hostages were being held in a chamber 50 meters inside the tunnel. The tunnel itself was pitch black, carved through solid rock. Maya felt her throat tighten. Going into that darkness felt impossible. But she thought of the 3 innocent people depending on them, frightened and alone just like she had been all those years ago. "New plan?" Maya whispered to her team. An idea had formed in her mind, born from years of understanding what darkness and fear could do to a person. "Chen Rodriguez, you'll create a diversion at the east entrance. Make noise, draw them out. The rest of us will use the darkness of the tunnel to our advantage. They'll have lights, which means they'll be blind to movement in the shadows. We'll become invisible." Chen looked surprised but nodded. It was a risky strategy, using the very thing that terrified her most as their greatest advantage. At 4:47 a.m., the diversion began. Explosions and gunfire echoed from the east side of the mine. Maya and her remaining 3 soldiers slipped into the main tunnel as enemy forces rushed toward the noise. Inside, the darkness was absolute. Maya turned off her night vision, letting her eyes adjust naturally. She had spent so many years fearing the dark that she had learned every trick to survive in it. She knew how to move silently without seeing. She knew how to listen for breathing and footsteps. She knew how to use other people's light against them. They moved like ghosts through the tunnel. When they encountered 2 guards, Maya used hand signals her team couldn't even see. But somehow they understood. They had trained together so long they could anticipate each other's movements. The guards were looking toward the sounds of battle, their flashlights pointed away. Maya's team neutralized them in seconds. Deeper in the mine, they found the hostages, 3 civilians huddled in a small chamber, terrified and exhausted. "We're here to take you home," Maya said softly. "But you need to trust me in the darkness." The extraction should have been smooth, but nothing ever goes perfectly. As they moved back toward the entrance, enemy reinforcements arrived, cutting off their escape route. Maya and her team were trapped in a side tunnel with the hostages, surrounded by armed soldiers with powerful lights. This was it, the nightmare scenario, trapped in the dark with no way out, just like when she was 7. Maya felt panic rising like a wave, but then something shifted inside her. She wasn't that little girl anymore. She was a trained soldier with a team depending on her. "Turn off all lights," Maya commanded. "Everyone stay completely still and silent." She pulled out a small device from her pack, something she had insisted on bringing despite questions from her superiors. It was a sound projector, capable of throwing voices in different directions. As the enemy soldiers cautiously entered the tunnel, sweeping their lights back and forth, Maya used the device to create sounds behind them, beside them, everywhere except where her group actually was. The enemy fired at shadows, their lights revealing nothing. In the chaos and confusion, Maya led her team and the hostages through a narrow passage she had noticed earlier, using only touch and memory to navigate. They emerged from the mine at 5:31 a.m., just as dawn was breaking. The enemy forces were still searching the tunnels, chasing echoes. Maya's team moved quickly to the extraction point, the hostages safe, everyone accounted for. As helicopter lights appeared on the horizon, Chen approached her. "Lieutenant, that was incredible. How did you stay so calm in there? How did you know the darkness would work in our favor?" Maya smiled, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of orange and gold. The forest didn't look frightening anymore in the morning light. "I spent my whole life being afraid of the dark," she said quietly. "I finally realized that if I understood my fear completely, I could turn it into something useful. The enemy saw darkness as an obstacle. I saw it as an ally." She thought of her 7-year-old self, lost and scared in the woods. If she could go back in time, she would tell that little girl that her fear wasn't a weakness. It was training for something important. It was preparing her to save lives one day. As the helicopter lifted off, carrying them all to safety, Maya looked down at the forest below. It still looked dark and mysterious, and yes, a part of her was still afraid. But that fear had become a tool, sharpened and refined through years of facing it head-on. Her childhood nightmare had transformed into her greatest strength. She had learned that courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was the wisdom to use fear as a weapon when it mattered most. The 3 rescued hostages were sleeping peacefully in the helicopter, finally safe. And Maya Santos, the girl who was once lost in the dark, had become the soldier who could navigate any darkness to bring people home.